live extreme heat advice scientists UK 2022.
The government has asked us to look out for vulnerable relatives and neighbours and has increased capacity on the call handling service for ambulances.
I would encourage people to heed the warnings that are out there. We have that balance where we might not see very much good weather and we want to enjoy it, but we're talking about temperatures that we've not experienced in this country ever, never mind for a long time. Our bodies, our houses, our culture, our way of life is just not geared up for it.
But we're going to have to get used to it. The greenhouse gases we put into the atmosphere from burning fossil fuels trap the sun's energy and warm the earth at a rate of about 1/4 of a degree every 10 years.
Well, heat waves is one of the clearest signs in
climate
extreme
change
weather of human influence on climate. It's one of the extreme weather events that we can be most confident about are being affected by rising global temperatures.
So is it too late for us to turn this around?
It's
the 18th of July 2022 today.
Because future warming is determined by future emissions. If we stop dumping carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, the world will stop warming. It's that simple.
But rapid action
It's not as easy as it seems, unfortunately, and we can't change it. It's the future for us all.
Climate change a real priority.
We want our comforts. It's like me using, a strimmer. So they're using a side hook or bill hook. It's somewhat convenient, but this is the consequences of what we have to pay for having the convenience. Hotter climate.
Enjoying it while they can, because the advice is don't do anything too strenuous as the day goes on. Try and stay inside, maybe a siesta this afternoon. That's the kind of Mediterranean lifestyle we're going to have to adapt to.
That's what I do sometimes, quite a bit.
At least. Already there are some problems in different parts of the country, particularly here in the east of England, but it could affect lots more regions as the next few hours go on. So let me just run you through a few things you might need to know. In Norfolk, there are some people who are without water after the main supply there near Kings Lynn burst. That affected 5,500 people.
There's a water burst in the county so locally,
homes, but clearly that's not disruption.
you name it.
On a day like this, when you've got to be staying hydrated,
I'm working town locally.
And apparently bottled water is available there. When the water comes back online, it might look a bit cloudy, but I'm told that's fine.
We've got bottled water in our holiday villa
as normal. We're talking as well about
in Bude and Cornwall,
because we know that's going to be a big issue, and already we're getting warnings this morning from Network Rail saying that the East Coast main line is going to be closed completely tomorrow afternoon, Tuesday afternoon. Punting services will go on as normal for now. They're not disrupted, but from midday till 8 tomorrow, the East Coast main line we think will be shut completely. A skeleton service tomorrow morning. Conditions can likely change on other routes as well, because as we've seen that rail tracks could be prone to overheating and buckling even in some temperatures. So do check before you make a journey, and if you can stay at home and not make that journey, that's probably a good idea. And we're going to be talking a lot this morning about the health service. Real stresses and pressures for the NHS over the next couple of days. Already struggling, as we know, with pandemic and the backlog. And this is going to put a lot of people under pressure and put services, especially paramedic services, under pressure. Milton Keynes University Hospital have told us they've already cancelled outpatient appointments and surgery, not going ahead there today or tomorrow because of patients travelling around. And also the potential demand for emergency care, because we know that people with underlying health conditions, things like coronary problems, lung conditions, asthma, could really struggle in the heat over the next couple of days. It's not just us, of course,
no,
struggling with
Europe
this
is as well.
UK. This weather is coming up from North Africa and Southern Europe, and we've got some pictures of some of the situation that they're experiencing in Southern Europe already, because we've got some really extreme wildfires that are spreading there.
We are next, I think.
Evacuations of
the fires
and tourists.
There's already been some around
France, southwestern France.
County Surrey.
1,000 people in that region have already been
locally,
fires spreading too in Spain and Croatia,
and across Brixton and London.
Portugal, the authorities there telling us that fires
A few days ago,
now, but that
in the city of London,
659 people, most of them elderly, have died from the heat.
A few around the county of Cornwall, Bude, Cornwall.
Really, isn't it, for us here in the place here. And of course, in places like Portugal and Spain and France, they're used to temperatures kind of in this region. We are not. So how our infrastructure and how as we individuals cope with this over the next couple of days, it's going to be even bigger challenge. We heard from Dr. Tamara Keith a bit earlier, who says our bodies in the UK just aren't used to dealing with this. So we will get all the health advice you need. We'll check in with Carol in a moment. But let's just stay with that whole thing about the practicalities of how we live. I said if you struggled to sleep last night, it might well be because you live in one of the millions of properties of the UK that just can't deal with this. They don't have
like a flat
ventilation. They might be sort of overpacked with padding and
in Manchester. Around the county, so locally.
Keep heat in, which then doesn't let the heat escape when we get these kind of extraordinary situations. And our climate editor, Justin Rowland, has been finding out about the reality and what we might be able to do as a nation going forward.
Here we go.
When Sydney Taylor moved into her flat in Manchester city centre in spring last year, she planned to buy it outright. But her dream of urban living has evaporated in the summer heat.
It can get up to 36 degrees that I've measured at one point. And
36 degrees?
36.
That's mental.
Temperature. You can't sleep in 36 degrees.
I slept in the hallway for 2 nights in a row.
God.
You slept in the hallway, because that was the coolest place.
That's mad.
At that time.
Hot homes can be deadly. There are around 2,000 heat-related deaths each year, according to government figures, and much of the risk is from high indoor temperatures. New build apartments like Sydney's are a particular problem.
It's easy to see why flats like these get so hot.
We shouldn't be insulating our houses in the future. We should not be doing that. We should do the opposite now.
No windows at the back.
Change the building plans.
And they tend to be well
Insulation isn't the way to do it in the future.
But if they get hot in summer, they stay hot.
Trying to change our building plans.
Haven't been a priority for government.
Well, as there haven't been any rules that govern overheating in buildings, we've seen buildings that have been designed that don't necessarily cope particularly well with the increased temperatures that we experience in summer. So an awful lot of glazing, which we know exacerbates.
Insulation is not the solution for the future across the UK now. I live in a house that isn't insulated. It's a lovely place in the summer and cool, cold in the winter, but we don't get cold winters much these days, do we? This is my opinion, best to have a house that is not insulated, and a house that is insulated. Stand where we are in this country now.
For the really hot weather that we're now seeing and that we're going to get more of. If we don't take more action, we'll see probably at least a tripling of heat-related deaths in this country.
And there is still no policy for how to deal with the millions of existing homes that overheat. Many will need costly modifications, and the science is clear. We can expect more frequent and more intense heat waves in the future. Justin Rowland, BBC News, Manchester.
This is bad, very bad.
In a very sunny Cambridge this morning, we're joined by Professor Emily Chopra, who's director
Here we go.
of Cambridge Zero, which is
Scientist time.
of Cambridge's major climate change initiatives, research initiative as well. Thanks so much for coming in to talk to us.
Gosh, she's lovely.
You know, I know there are lots
And
of people
beautiful.
this morning who are saying, for goodness sake, it's just a couple of sunny summer's days, we're all overreacting. What do you say to them?
Well, sadly, the sort of temperatures that we're likely to experience today and tomorrow
Not normal.
some people potentially
Deadly.
If you're elderly, if you're pregnant,
If you're 85
got babies,
or 95,
those
I've got a few friends out there that are old.
vulnerable
That
to
old.
really high temperatures. So
Check
this
they're
is
all
not
right.
something to take lightly.
So I guess the question is, how do we deal with it for these couple of days, and how do we adjust our lifestyles maybe way into the future forever?
When you said earlier that we should be enjoying a Mediterranean lifestyle for the next couple of days, but the problem is
Not everyone
we're
can.
not set up for a Mediterranean lifestyle. Particularly our hospitals, our care homes, our schools, our nurseries, our homes themselves. We simply don't have the infrastructure.
No, not marble floors or concrete.
And we can't just suddenly do that for a couple of days. So we're talking like massive change.
And this is the challenge with climate change. That if we're going to be able to live in a society with the sort of temperatures that we're and other climate impacts that we're already experiencing, then we really do need to focus on how we can adapt to that change. But at the same time, the biggest thing that we could be doing to limit the risk of those things happening emissions in the first place, because that is how we stop climate change.
Cambridge.
In people's minds today,
Beautiful.
we get to Wednesday and the temperature comes down a little bit, we get back to normal, and this might just fade away into people's minds when they're dealing with the cost of living and day-to-day bills and that kind of thing.
Absolutely, although it fade away in their minds until, you know, the next couple of weeks when we get another heat wave.
Yeah, there'll be another one.
They're not stopping. Climate change is progressing all the
August,
time. But the
I
key
reckon.
thing is that actually
That's my
cost of
prediction.
living crisis, which is really, you know, hitting everyone at the moment, that is at its heart an energy crisis. And how do we help to address that? We reduce our reliance on fossil energy. And how can individuals, you know, in the near term?
Yeah, darling, but not everyone wants to live in the dark ages.
The most can they do? They can reduce the energy use that they use in the first place. So it seems crazy to be talking about this in the middle
It's
of a heat
not
wave.
very
When it comes to winter,
easy.
then, you know, it's going to be about layering up, putting more jumpers on, trying to use less heating in the first place.
How shocked are you that we're talking about 40 degrees plus today?
You know, I'm a climate scientist, so I've been studying the climate for the last 30 years. These have been within...
Me too as well, darling.
Increase has been well within the warnings that we've been putting out for the climate, from the climate science community for decades now. And it's very frustrating from a climate scientist perspective that we're now seeing the human impact of climate change.
Professor Emily Shukru, thank you very much indeed for joining us from Cambridge Zero this morning on Breakfast. Carol has been looking through all the latest data for us, and she's got all the information we need. She's on Primrose Hill in central London this morning.
Like this video, please have thumbs up. You subscribe to Missions on Sanjay Gems. Bye, everyone. The Sky Missions on Gems made it possible. We always break the flex, but many means many. Wayne.